In the SUI operational area, units of the 3rd Air Assault Battalion, belonging to the 79th Air Assault Brigade of Ukraine, identified the movement of Russian armored formations during a reconnaissance mission. Responding immediately to the intelligence that Russian forces were advancing into the sector, Ukrainian troops mobilized to counter the threat. Concurrently, Russian armored columns pushed forward, delivering suppressive fire on Ukrainian positions in an effort to penetrate their defensive lines. As the engagement intensified along the front, Ukrainian drone pilots, having received authorization from command, shifted to an offensive footing. In that instant, a Russian tank triggered a concealed anti-tank mine, resulting in a massive detonation. The armored vehicle was annihilated. From the billowing smoke, 2 Russian soldiers who had survived the initial blast emerged, attempting a swift withdrawal from the vicinity. The primary focus for the Ukrainian drone operators, however, was to confirm the complete destruction of the heavily damaged Russian tank. Meanwhile, remaining Russian tanks continued their assault, undeterred by the heavy resistance, maintaining pressure on the defensive lines. The Ukrainian drone operators, with calm precision, proceeded to identify and engage targets sequentially. Another successful FPV drone strike followed shortly, hitting its intended target. A secondary explosion rocked the area, and another Russian tank was neutralized. Clouds of smoke and dust obscured the battlefield, disrupting the momentum of the Russian advance. Simultaneously, at another point on the front line, a Russian turtle tank, distinguished by its supplementary armor plating, was detected. While these tanks are modified to offer enhanced protection against drone attacks, their unique silhouette makes them conspicuous targets when operating alongside other armored vehicles. Ukrainian drone operators capitalized on this vulnerability without delay. A succession of attack drones was launched, each locking onto its target. The relentless and precise strikes succeeded in slowing the Russian armored column. As the reverberations of the explosions dissipated, Ukrainian forces escalated their counter-offensive. Ultimately, despite its formidable armor, the turtle tank was unable to withstand the sustained assault. A direct hit breached the tank's defenses, rendering it inoperative. As a consequence, the Russian armored presence in the Sumy region was forced to retreat, having suffered substantial losses. The so-called turtle tanks, which have recently been deployed by the Russian military to the front lines, serve as one of the most telling indicators of the desperation and technological deficiencies within Russia's armored core. These vehicles are typically antiquated Soviet-era models, such as the T-62 or T-72, whose hulls have been hastily retrofitted in field workshops with thick steel plates and crudely welded metal beams. Visually resembling a large metal container, these modifications are intended to provide a shield against Ukrainian drone strikes. In reality, however, these cumbersome additions do not make the tanks safer. On the contrary, they severely impede their mobility, visibility, and effective firepower. For Ukrainian drone operators, these turtles represent relatively straightforward targets. The heavy overhead armor is insufficient to prevent FPV drones or artillery shells from striking vulnerable points. Moreover, the added weight places considerable strain on the tank's engines, frequently resulting in mechanical breakdowns or immobilization in muddy terrain or constricted trench systems. While Russian propaganda endeavors to present these turtle tanks as an innovative solution to the threat of drones on the battlefield, they reveal little more than the dire circumstances of Russian commanders and their lack of modern armor or active protection systems. Thanks to the proficiency of the Ukrainian army's drone teams and their precise intelligence-gathering network, these lumbering metal contraptions are often destroyed or abandoned before they can even reach the front lines. In recent months, Ukrainian forces have escalated their campaign to disrupt Russian military logistics and fortifications through a synergistic application of precise reconnaissance, targeted drone strikes, and coordinated artillery fire. A central component of this strategy has been the methodical targeting of Russian convoys, responsible for transporting supplies, ammunition, and reinforcements to frontline positions. These logistical trains, frequently composed of trucks, fuel tankers, armored vehicles, and occasionally improvised transport, constitute a critical lifeline for Russian units, attempting to hold their ground amidst escalating losses and mounting Ukrainian pressure. Operating in hostile environments and often dependent on inadequately protected roadways and makeshift routes, these convoys have become exceedingly vulnerable to ambushes and drone attacks. Ukrainian drone operators and reconnaissance teams, operating in close concert with artillery and missile units, maintain continuous surveillance of key supply corridors. Once a convoy is identified, real-time intelligence is transmitted to strike units, which can then rapidly deploy FPV drones, loitering munitions, or precision-guided artillery to engage the moving targets. This methodology has proven to be exceptionally effective, frequently leading to the destruction of multiple vehicles in a single engagement and causing severe disruptions to Russian supply chains. The cumulative impact of these attacks on convoys extends far beyond the immediate destruction of vehicles and their cargo. Each successful ambush compels Russian commanders to reroute supply lines, stretching their logistical networks over longer and more hazardous paths, and to divert additional personnel to guard convoys and repair damaged infrastructure. This, in turn, intensifies the strain on already overextended units and contributes to shortages of critical supplies, such as fuel, ammunition, and medical equipment at the front. In numerous documented instances, Russian soldiers have been observed abandoning damaged vehicles and fleeing on foot, leaving behind valuable materiel that Ukrainian forces either capture or destroy to prevent its reuse. Equally significant is the Ukrainian strategy of securing and leveraging strategic locations throughout the contested regions. Key high ground, crossroads, and transportation hubs function as vital nodes for both reconnaissance and offensive operations. By establishing control over such positions, Ukrainian units gain considerable advantages in surveillance, fire control, and mobility. Elevated terrain provides extended observation ranges, enabling drone operators and forward observers to track enemy movements deep behind the front lines. From these vantage points, artillery and rocket systems can be directed with remarkable accuracy, neutralizing enemy concentrations and logistics nodes with minimal collateral damage. In areas where urban or semi-urban terrain offers cover for Russian forces, Ukrainian units have demonstrated exceptional proficiency in employing combined arms tactics to clear and hold strategic points. Small infantry groups, supported by armored vehicles, engineers, and drones, systematically advance through villages, wooded areas, and industrial zones. Each liberated position not only denies the Russian army a staging ground for attacks, but also extends Ukraine's capacity to monitor and interdict enemy movements in the surrounding areas. In conjunction with convoy interdictions and the control of strategic positions, one of the most decisive elements of Ukraine's evolving battlefield doctrine has been the systematic destruction of Russian defensive bunkers and subterranean shelters. As Russian forces have become increasingly reliant on entrenched positions to shield their troops from drone strikes and artillery barrages, these bunkers have transformed into critical vulnerabilities. Ukrainian drone reconnaissance teams, meticulously locate the entrances, ventilation shafts, and supply routes that lead to these underground structures. Once identified, these points are targeted with specialized munitions, bunker buster ordnance, or precisely guided explosives delivered by drones. In many documented cases, Ukrainian forces have employed innovative tactics to penetrate and neutralize deeply buried positions. FPV drones, armed with high explosive charges, can be flown directly into bunker entrances or air vents, causing catastrophic internal damage. When combined with sustained artillery fire, this tactic often leaves the defenders with no alternative but to abandon their shelters or face encirclement and destruction. The demolition of these fortified positions not only inflicts heavy casualties, but also erodes Russian morale and shatters the perception of safety that such shelters are intended to provide. Moreover, the psychological impact of witnessing hardened bunkers and concealed hideouts being systematically annihilated cannot be overstated. Russian troops, who might have once depended on these structures for rest and resupply, now face a constant state of uncertainty, knowing that no location is truly secure from the reach of Ukrainian drones and artillery. This relentless pressure has compelled Russian units to disperse, adopt less coherent defensive postures, and expend valuable time and resources on the construction of new fortifications, efforts that are swiftly negated by renewed strikes. These integrated tactics, crippling convoys, securing strategic strongholds, and eliminating enemy shelters, are reflective of a broader Ukrainian military philosophy rooted in adaptability, precision, and technological innovation.
With each successful operation, Ukrainian forces progressively degrade Russia's operational capabilities and compel its commanders to adopt a reactive defensive stance rather than dictating the tempo of battle. This dynamic, in turn, creates fresh opportunities for offensive maneuvers, localized breakthroughs, and deeper incursions into previously fortified sectors. Looking ahead, Ukraine's emphasis on disrupting logistics, controlling key terrain, and neutralizing hardened enemy positions will continue to be instrumental in shaping the balance of power on the ground. As drone technology advances and targeting intelligence becomes even more sophisticated, Russian forces will find it increasingly challenging to conceal their movements, protect their supply lines, or construct secure shelters capable of withstanding sustained precision attacks. In this complex and perpetually evolving theater of war, the courage, ingenuity, and resolve of Ukrainian soldiers and drone operators stand out as defining characteristics. By harnessing modern technology, sharing real-time intelligence, and relentlessly adapting their tactics to exploit enemy weaknesses, they consistently demonstrate that determination and innovation can surmount numerical disadvantages and entrenched defenses. Every destroyed convoy, every captured crossroads, and every obliterated bunker serves as a testament to Ukraine's unwavering commitment to reclaiming its territories and denying the occupying forces any sense of security or inevitability. As these operations continue to expand in scale and effectiveness, they convey a clear and unequivocal message. No area behind enemy lines is beyond the reach of a well-coordinated and technologically empowered Ukrainian defense. While engaged in reconnaissance operations in the PCR's direction, the Black Sky Unit, operating under the aegis of the 3rd Operations Brigade Spartan, NGU, detected a substantial presence of Russian elements in the area through the use of unmanned aerial vehicles. In the initial video feed, 2 Russian soldiers are clearly visible advancing along the front line on a motorcycle. This mode of transport renders them exceptionally vulnerable, particularly to FPV drone strikes. Nevertheless, the fact that the Russian soldiers proceeded on their course, oblivious to the imminent danger, underscores the high level of risk prevalent in the area. Shortly thereafter, FPV drones guided by operators were launched, and as a result of a precise strike, the 2 Russian soldiers on the motorcycle were neutralized. The situation was no different for other Russian elements in the vicinity. Drone operators identified other Russian soldiers who were either attempting to conceal themselves within abandoned structures or rapidly changing their positions in open terrain. With no avenue of escape, these elements were neutralized one by one through a series of successive FPV drone attacks. Abandoned houses, ruins, and rural areas were meticulously scanned, and potential points of cover were brought under the control of the drones. By the conclusion of the operation, Russian forces had sustained heavy losses in both manpower and military equipment. In addition to the eliminated soldiers, the equipment, weapons, and ammunition left behind were rendered unusable. Through this operation, the Black Sky unit once again demonstrated how indispensable unmanned aerial vehicles have become on the modern battlefield. Following coordinated reconnaissance operations, Ukraine's aviation sector and intelligence units succeeded in pinpointing the base position of 2 Russian FPV drone pilots. This vital intelligence was immediately relayed to the troops on the ground, and artillery units in the area were promptly mobilized. Ukrainian forces executed 2 precision strikes on the identified coordinates. Thanks to these pinpoint strikes, the target was hit with complete accuracy. The base, which was being utilized as a shelter, was entirely destroyed along with its equipment. This successful operation not only disrupted Russian FPV drone activities, but also proved once again how effectively Ukraine's reconnaissance and intelligence network operates in the field. Such operations underscore the critical importance of controlling the role of unmanned aerial vehicles on the front line, while also highlighting the rapid response capability of Ukrainian forces. Striking the target with precision minimizes both casualties and the expenditure of ammunition, further ensuring the success of the operation.